Originally hailing from the gritty Greenpoint section of North Brooklyn, Philip "Rusty" Rastelli would rise up from a common street hoodlum and gunman to eventually reach the very pinnacle of organized crime in New York City. He would become boss over one of Cosa Nostra's infamous 5 families. This is his story. Philip "Rusty" Rastelli was born in 1918 in the Greenpoint, Williamsburg section of North Brooklyn. He was identified by the early 1950s as a Bonanno soldier. By the mid-1960s, he was elevated to capo status. By 1970, he was being carried on law enforcement charts as a new boss of the family. His activities included extortion, hijacking, shylocking, gambling, and strong-arm enforcement. His close criminal associates included John Sonny Francis, a boyhood friend, lifelong buddy, and one-time running partner of Rastelli; Joseph Messino, a young protege of Rusty who he proposed for induction; Pasquale Patty Mac Macchiaroli, a neighborhood friend who later became a high-ranked Genovese member; Vincent Jimmy Napoli, another boyhood friend who migrated to the Genovese; and Anthony Tony D. DiGregorio, son of Gaspari. He ran a loan sharking ring for Rusty. In 1940, Rastelli, who was 22 at the time, was arrested with his buddy SANTO BRETAGNA for a $226 payroll robbery in Manhattan. Rusty was armed with a .32 caliber pistol. Both were sentenced to serve 5 to 10 years in Sing Sing. In 1953, he was arrested in Manhattan for operating a large dice game. The charge was dismissed. In 1954, Rastelli and Ralph Santoro were arrested for the killing of paroled burglar Michael Russo. The year before, they had shot him 4 times, but he survived. In 1955, Rusty's wife Connie was arrested for the attempted bribery of Russo's wife. Connie had offered her $5,000 to change testimony against Rusty and Santoro for Russo's attempted murder in 1953. In 1965, Rusty hit 2 women pedestrians, killing one in Rego Park while driving one night. He was given a criminal summons for reckless driving. In 1970, he was investigated as one of several mobsters who received special privileges while serving time at Nassau County Jail. Guards were bribed to bring in liquor, food, drugs, and women for mob figures. Also in 1970, he was charged with criminal contempt by the Nassau County Rackets Grand Jury probing the Bonannos. He served several 30-day bids for contempt at the Nassau jail. In 1971, Rastelli, DiGregorio, and 3 others were arrested in a 16-count indictment for an extensive loan sharking ring run on Long Island. Rusty pled out and received an 18-month jail term. In 1975, Rastelli was among 5 indicted for the control of a Bonanno lunch wagon extortion racket. He was charged with extorting a chain of mobile lunch wagons to make regular payments to a lunch wagon association he operated. He was convicted and served a 10-year jail term. In 1985, Rastelli was indicted but was later severed from the famed Mafia commission case. Having been later convicted, sentenced to 12 years, and jailed in a labor rackets case, as well as several other legal entanglements, authorities felt it was cleaner to keep him out of the additional indictments. As an aside, he suffered a seizure at arraignment from the mob commission case and had to be removed from court by ambulance. The entire scene was lunacy as ambulance attendants had to push their way through a throng of onlookers and overbearing news media angling for the best picture to splash on the front pages. In 1987, after a 5-month-long trial, he received a 12-year federal sentence for labor racketeering for Bonanno family domination of the moving and storage industry. Years before, he had installed several minions to head Local 814 of the Teamsters Union, which organized workers in the moving industry. It was proved that over a 20-year period, he had extorted payments from moving companies as well as bid rigging. Also in 1987, law enforcement made judicial history after charging the entire Bonanno crime family as an illegal entity under the civil RICO provisions on the books. Both individually and as an entity, dozens of members and their organization alike were enjoined from operating, and millions of dollars were assessed against them. Seizures of properties, buildings, houses, businesses, labor unions, and any assets that could be identified were frozen by the federal government. It was groundbreaking, a first of its kind. A classic story is that of Rusty's first wife, Connie Rastelli, a mob wife who thought she was a mobster herself. She drove the getaway car after several robberies, kept the gambling ledgers, ran an abortion clinic, and bribed potential witnesses against her husband on several occasions. But she was also a very jealous woman, especially after finding out that Rusty had cheated on her several times. It got so bad that Connie actually once tracked down and beat a mistress of his senseless. After another incident of infidelity, Connie shot Rusty twice with a pistol, wounding him on a Brooklyn street. After that, Rusty left her, which only made her more vindictive. She started providing confidential information to authorities. Eventually, Rusty was ordered to silence her, which he did, by having her shot to death. To encapsulate a very complex arrangement, as an overview of Rastelli's influence, by 1970 or 71 he was running the family. Although jailed, he was looked to as boss. But with Carmine Galante being paroled in 1974, Rastelli faded into the background rather than go to war with Galante, especially since Rastelli was jailed at the time. Eventually, Galante's heavy-handed style of leading, his greed, and his arrogance brought about the decision to kill him, which was carried out in 1979. At that point, Rastelli was declared the official boss of the Brigata. Philip Rusty Rastelli died of liver cancer on June 24, 1991, just 20 days after being granted compassionate release from the Federal Medical Center in Springfield, Missouri. He was 73 years old. You can read more about the Bonanno family and its members and associates at the button guys of the New York Mafia website at www.thenewyorkmafia.com. And be sure to comment, like the video, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode of Mob Fireside Chat. Thank you for watching. Until next time.